We are just 2 hours away to round 6 and the 30th anniversary of the Betfred Super League, so let the build-up commence. Kicking us off tonight are the Castleford Tigers and the Bradford Bulls. Ryan Carr will be looking for a response as the Tigers were as good as extinct at the Halliwell Jones. Then on Friday, the Robins have been more like penguins as opposed to Batman's sidekick. Can they return to Craven Park with a win against the Saints? Huddersfield Giants are nothing of the sort as they go to Wigan, and one thing is for sure, the Warriors never show mercy to any opponent. This could be brutal. Whilst over at York, prepare for a contest that could be incredible for the neutral. From Championship to Super League, expect nothing less than entertainment. Speaking of which, the fireworks and the razzmatazz return to the LSV on Saturday as Leigh take on Toulouse. Both sides could do with a win to build confidence going forward. And then it's over to the MKM as both FC and the Dragons come off brilliant wins. Can the Dragons eat up 2 birds from Hull in 2 weeks? Well, we'll find out. And then finally, a game that kicked off round 1 in 1996 and still gets taste buds moist. The unbeaten Warrington Wolves face Leeds Rhinos at Headingley to mark the 30th anniversary of Super League, and it should be befitting of the occasion. In-depth analysis, passionate debate, and round 6 predictions. It is time for the #1 build-up show to the Betfred Super League. It's time for the Captain's Run. It is indeed time for the Captain's Run. It's 6 p.m. It's a Thursday, and whether you're listening on the way to the game or you're watching on YouTube, we'll take you right up to tonight's contest between the Castleford Tigers and Bradford Bulls. With me, as always, on the Captain's Run is Mr. Sailor. How are you, matey?
Very well. It's Thursday again. It comes around quick, doesn't it?
It most certainly does, my friend. It most certainly does. And we've got a bumper show planned for everybody who's watching this evening. We're going to go in reverse order. The reason we do it in reverse order is, of course, if people come late to Captain's Run into the weekend, it means that games that have yet to play are at the start of the programme. That's why we do it in reverse order. And then, of course, we'll get all the way up to tonight's game to build us off. So, of course, if we're doing it in reverse order, we have to start here. Of course, 30 years on and still an epic contest. No doubt about it. There's not many games better in Super League than when Leeds and Warrington take the field against each other. They're normally good, high-scoring contests a lot of the time as well. Some really good tries over the years. Speaking of which, in 1996, this was the game. It was at Headingley. And look at that, Steph. 22-18. The Warrington Wolves that day got off to a great start. They were wearing green and white stripes. Oh, dear me, we are going back in time. Just over 10,000 at Headingley to see it. And as you can see there, Mr. Sale, let's pay homage to some of the stars of yesteryear. Look at some of the names that were playing for the Leeds Rhinos that day. Kevin Iro coming to the back end of his career. What a player Kevin Iro was. Of course, Desi Drummond and him were good mates. Francis Cummins, very handy halfback. Adrian Morley, still in his infancy. And Barry Mack for Leeds Rhinos was playing in that game.
Francis Cummins was a winger.
Yeah, but he played in the halves that day.
Did it?
He did.
Wow. Right. Okay. And that was that green and white kit. Was that the Warrington kit? The green Halls one.
The green Halls one with the old badge it was as well.
Yeah. It was a good kit. That I remember that one. So some massive names in our sport there, and brings me right back to my childhood. Those names. So boots and all days, wasn't it?
It was. And look at Warrington's team. Yestin Harris, of course, went on to greater things at the Leeds Rhinos. He left Warrington. He was playing that day. Paul Sculthorpe was at 13 with a skull cap on. He was playing, and of course, the rest is history in terms of his career. A great centre for Warrington. Coe Love, what a player he was. Those people who were about in 96 will remember Coe Love. He was a hell of a player. And Mike Wainwright, who went on away from Warrington, did a great stint at Salford, if you remember, mate. Mike had a stellar career as well. So it's nice to look back and pick out some of these names from all those years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Coe Love spent a bit of time at Leigh in the Championship as well. After, I think, they got to Widnes after Warrington.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, I think he
and
did.
Then he came to Leigh. So yeah, some. I mean, Yestin Harris, what a player he was for both Warrington and Leeds Rhinos. Great player. But yeah, good nostalgia.
Good nostalgia. There'll be more of that. There'll be more of that as we go through the captain's run. And who knows, we might do a little bit in weekly as well as the season goes on to mark 30 years. I really enjoyed doing this for this show tonight. But yeah, there you go. 30 years ago, Leeds Rhinos 18, Warrington Wolves 22. I'd like it, from a neutral perspective. I don't think many neutrals would be upset if there was 4 points in it at the weekend and it was a hell of a contest. Let's put it that way. Let's get into the game. So, of course, no announcements of the squad. They come tomorrow, of course. So we're doing this on a Thursday as always. But I have picked out a bit of a narrative. And I have to say, Steph, if there's one thing that's going to be concerning the Leeds Rhinos coming into this game, and people say, well, it was Castleford. I get that. But the left edge of Warrington against Castleford was simply unbelievable. You know, Matty Ashton, 3 tries, Kalepi Tanginoa, 4. 1 try assist for Toby King, 4 try assists for George Williams, playing on his preferred left side. In terms of tackleables, 2 for Ashton, 3 for King, 9 for Tanginoa, 4 for Williams. Clean breaks, 4 for Matty Ashton, 3 for Kalepi Tanginoa. The tackle efficiencies of these players, only 2, I'm going to say this again, only 2 missed tackles in the entire 80 minutes on the left edge of Warrington defensively on Saturday against Castleford. And of course, the run meters, very impressive indeed. I think King probably would have got over 100 meters had he have not had his indiscretion with his yellow card. Matty Ashton, 151 on his return. And look at George Williams there, 182 from 18 carries. There's no doubt about it, Steph. That left edge attack of Warrington, it was purring on Saturday, and that's going to be the main concern going into this game for Leeds.
Yeah, it certainly was, Dave. It was absolutely brilliant for them, and I thought Kalepi Tanganoa, I know he's going to get the headlines with his 4 tries, but showing the form of when he originally went to KR for me, great boost for Warrington getting Matty Ashton back. I think this is what Matty brings, because it's not just what he's doing; it's the fact that he's there. He's creating problems for defences now. You know, a few years back we had Lee's lethal left, didn't we? But I think Warrington have nicked that title this year with these players. It'll be really interesting to see how they go on, because I think they'll be going against players like Newman. Is that right? On the Leeds is right.
It's funny you should say that, Mr. Sailor. It's funny that you should say that, because if we actually look, I mean, this was Warrington against Castleford. Let's take into account Leeds against FC. And Leeds against FC, there'd be a lot of things that would concern the Leeds Rhinos fans. And I picked up 3 key stats. 40 missed tackles. I'll say that again. 40 missed tackles from the Leeds Rhinos in this game. Now, 3 of them came from Newman and 4 of them came from McDonald, both on that edge. So that's the right edge of defence that we've just looked at, the left edge of attack at Warrington. So that's a major concern. Both Newman and McDonald, between them, 7 of those 40 missed tackles at the weekend. That's a real problem. Also, 9 penalties given away in that game, 4 of which were given away by Lockie Miller. Lockie Miller, for whatever reason against FC, it looked like his head had gone. He compounded that as well by being one of the highest error makers in the game as well, alongside Jake Connor. So I know you don't. I know you love the fact that, I mean, people always, you must think that, you know, this, it's nonsense when I say this. Steph genuinely doesn't know what graphics are going up on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. But you hit the nail on the head, mate. That right edge of defence of Leeds against FC was not clicking into gear. And when you couple that with the left edge of the attack, for me, that's where all the attention's got to go for this game.
100%. And I think Leeds' biggest downfall was they got frustrated against that game against FC. I think FC really frustrated them, and then that led to poor discipline. You know, we saw uncharacteristic things like moving off to the referee and penalties for them. But then by its very nature, that brings errors into your game, because your head's not in it. And we started to see glimpses of Connor going into that as well. Nothing serious, nowhere near as bad as he used to be. That one, it's going to be interesting if they do start coming under pressure from that left edge, how they react again this week, because I'm sure Brad Arthur will have picked up on exactly that, and they'll be wanting to remedy that, you know, pretty much straight away. But wanting to and doing are 2 different things.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Arthur was not happy, and rightly so. I mean, this is the Leeds Rhinos side that we saw do heroic things to the champions in Vegas. And I just felt ill-discipline. Again, missed tackles, penalties, errors. It all compounded. It really, really did. And fair play to FC. They took full advantage of that. I thought FC did everything. I mean, we talked about Asias. We'll get to that, I'm sure, when we get to the Catalan game. But, bottom line is that Leeds were just not at the races in terms of their discipline at the MKM, and they need to be better against the Warrington side that, I can't believe I'm saying this, are undefeated and at the moment look like they're playing with an abundance of confidence.
Yeah, and whenever a side's got confidence, then that's obviously it's a massive part of the game, isn't it? Because you're more likely to try that, hero ball or whatever, and they're more likely to come off as well. And there's no doubt about it. Warrington are flying high at the moment. Obviously, had that early week off as well, where they missed a game. So they're a bit more rested. And Leeds have had all that travelling to do with the Vegas and stuff. So they're still probably getting. I think I don't like using Vegas as an excuse, but we have seen it, consistently now that it does have that effect. So yeah, it's going to be a really enthralling game, this one, along with all the razzmatazz that's going with the 30 years. And as a neutral, I'm really looking forward to Sunday. Not to wish my weekend away,
No.
but I think this and maybe the York Wakefield game of my two picks this weekend for the most drama were probably the closest games as well.
Yeah, it's got a great narrative, some incredible players on the field of play. Presley Cassell, that's got to be a bit of a decision, I would say, for Brad Arthur. He's not happy with how they went against FC, and Cassell couldn't have done any more to warm himself to Brad Arthur in that game for Huddersfield. He was incredible. Would you bring Presley back for this one?
I'm a massive fan of Presley Cassell. I think he's a superb young player. I suppose this is where Brad needs to come into his own, doesn't he? And I think one of the things that Brad has done since he's come at Leeds is he's brought that not fear, but probably respect of the coach. And he isn't scared of making some big calls if he has to, and he thinks it'll benefit the team. And even if it backfires on him, I think he'd still do stuff like that. If he thinks it's for the best of the team, he will do it. Presley was fantastic for Huddersfield, really, really good. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one to come in to make that little bit of a change, to give it a bit of a freshen up after last week.
I think the interesting thing here is that, Leeds have played, of course, 5 games to Warrington's 4, but Warrington, because of that big win against Castleford, have scored more points, 5 more points than them this season. And perhaps not as surprising, a slightly better defence. When you look at that on a pro rata basis, the defences are quite even. This has just got box office on a Sunday afternoon written all over it, hasn't it?
Yeah. As and I alluded to a minute ago, I think there'll be fireworks off the pitch, but they'll also be on it. I think this is two sides that are really going to want this win as well. It's kind of got that playoff kind of intensity feel about it in front of the Sky cameras. I'm assuming this is a full build-up game as well. It won't be hidden behind a red button given the celebrations that are going on. So it does have that big game feel. And like I said, both teams will be wanting to put a marker down, and both will see each other as serious threats at the moment for the League Leaders Shield, and also for playoffs and grand finals. So it makes a massive stamp in your book if you can get a win over a rival such as this.
And the other, we said that, excuse me, that Brad Arthur's got a decision with Presley Cassell. Sam Burgess has got a decision at 7. Would you leave Ewan Irwin in there?
100%. It's an absolute no-brainer for me. I think as good as Mark Sneed's been for Wire, and I think it was, I did question it at the time whether it was the right decision with Leon Hayes there. Obviously, before Ewan burst on the scene, you'll have known obviously all about Ewan from his reserves and academy games. I think the biggest difference where Ewan's really stepped up in where you think Sneed could have him is goal kicking. Ewan's put that one to bed straight away with the amount of goals that he's been kicking, and he's also in play kicking as well, has been very impressive. Yeah. So I think that was the one thing that people would argue before seeing Ewan Irwin that Sneyd had over him. I think Ewan's defence is far better than Mark Sneyd, and he's got that youth and enthusiasm. I think if you took him out now after that performance at the weekend, that would be detrimental. You can't drop a player regardless of his age, when he's playing that well. So I fully expect unless Irwin has some bad form, I think that shirt's his for the foreseeable.
High praise indeed, Mr. Sale. High praise indeed. Let's go to a few milestones. Jake Connor got a chance of this. 7 more points for him. He'll get to 1,000 in his career. Well done to Jake. If Ryan Hall's on the field, it'd be his 250. And gets a try, it'd be his 250 for Leeds. James Harrison will be making his 200th career appearance, and Matty Ashton his 100th Super League appearance this coming weekend. So we wish them nothing but the best. It's time for predictions, Steph. Who are you going and by how many?
Oh, right. This is a real tough one. I think it's going to be a very close game, a very, very close game, and I think we're going to see a reaction from Leeds 100%. Going to be a massive crowd on as well. And Headingley, my favourite stadium in rugby league. There is for me, it's the Rugby League Theatre. They call Old Trafford the Theatre of Dreams. I think Headingley is, if you could build a rugby league stadium, you'd pretty much you put a stand or maybe a roof over that Western Terrace, but it's not far off, is it? So, but for atmosphere, it's phenomenal. So I think that's going to be a massive plus point with this being at home for Leeds. Warrington obviously come into it super, super confident. Headache for Sam Burgess in terms of players available, which is, a nice compared to some other teams in Super League. What a luxury to be. I've starting halves, not starting, and it's a very good predicament for him to be in. I see it's going to be really. This could be a 1 point. It could even be an extra golden point, extra time. It's going to be a thriller, but I'm going to go Warrington by 1.
I'm going 9 more. I'm going Warrington by 10. I think that based on what we've seen from Warrington thus far this season, Saints, Wakey, the last 2 games they've been brutal. And we've always questioned that in terms of Warrington. Can they keep the foot on the throat? They've done that, and I just think that with the confidence element of it at the moment, it's hard not. And I can't believe I'm saying this. If you'd have told me at the start of the season would it be going Warrington at Headingley, back in Warrington, and I'd probably said absolutely not, never in a million years. But the way things currently sit and the way Warrington are playing, I find it hard not to back him. So I'm going Warrington by 10. Could come back and bite me. Who knows? We'll wait and see on that one. But hey, can't wait for that one on Sunday. Let's move then to the other game on Sunday. Hull FC taking on the Catalan Dragons. Both of these 2 teams, of course, had a phenomenal win at the weekend. Of course, FC against Leeds Rhinos and the Dragons against KR. Absolutely unbelievable performances from both sides. Let's go down memory lane. Yes, it was 2006 when the Catalan Dragons first took on Hull FC in Super League. The score was a 34 points to 28 win for FC. There was 6,877 in attendance. And here we go again. Some interesting names were on the team sheet. Thomas Bosch, what a player. Michael Dobson, Jerome Guisset, another player there. And Alex Chan, the dad of Joe and Tiaki, that he was playing that day for the Dragons. As for Hull FC, Richard Horn, Kurt Yeoman, who was a great pro for FC, great pro. Danny Brough, of course, at that point was at Hull FC. And, of course, Leigh Radford, who went on, of course, to Challenge Cup back-to-back wins as coach for Hull FC. Steph, again, down memory lane we go. Some names there as well.
Yeah, there is. Danny Brough, probably underrated in terms of what he actually did for the game. And my biggest thing with Danny was his spiral bombs, wasn't it? I think he kind of introduced that into Super League pretty much. He was a master at it, and I think Richard Orne was also a class six, wasn't he? Really, really good player. Thomas Bosk, he did a bit of assisting at Saints, didn't he, recently? Thomas Bosk.
I think he did. I think he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good player, mate. He was a
He was
great
a
player.
some of the skill what he would pull off. He had a bit of rangy chase in him in some elements of his game. He was a very talented footballer, and of course Michael Dobson, who spent time at KR. There's a bit of a link, isn't there, with Catalan players going to Hull KR, especially in the halves position. So yeah, some really good players there, Dave.
Absolutely. Now, history tells us this could be a great game. In terms of who's got the flowers, Hull FC 22 wins, Catalan Dragons 23 wins, 2 draws.
Wow.
That's interesting, isn't it? That's very interesting. And last year, get this one, again, for those who remember, in round 27, the same game, Hull FC at home against the Catalan Dragons, it was 22-26 to the Dragons. So this has got narrative. This has got, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been a few absolute drubbings in there as well for Catalan on home soil against FC in 2025 last year, 34-0 and 24-4 they beat. But like I say, under Tompkins in round 27, when they were starting to get a little bit Catalan at that point, really interesting game, 26-22. Again, wouldn't be bad if we got that on Sunday, would it?
Oh, it'd be fantastic. It would, and I think with this, there's every chance. This is another. I mean, I mentioned the York and Wakefield game, which we'll come to. But when you look at the fixtures this week, there's some absolute pearlers, isn't there, in terms of what could be really close games, and that from the start of the season, what we've asked for is close games, and for the majority, it has been that, bar a couple of the Wigan Leigh game and obviously Warrington Cass. There has been a couple, but for the majority, it's been pretty tight games, hasn't it? And this week just looks like a fantastic fixture list of games that could all go down to the wire.
Could indeed. And now look, Leigh Sow could make his 100th Super League appearance. Now Leighy's coming for a load of criticism over the last couple of years. His discipline has been, quite frankly, it's been very poor. That said, against Leeds, what a performance in the front row.
Yeah, he was phenomenal for FC. Probably, I'd argue to say it's the best game I've seen him play in an FC shirt. Obviously, I've not seen him play every game for FC, but it must be right up there because he was phenomenal. I think his Achilles heel is his discipline, and not necessarily.
Sorry to butt in, but he got lucky as well on Sunday.
He did. This is what I was just about to say. In terms of his tackling technique, is not the best, and I don't think sometimes it's even intentional. It's just the way he manoeuvres his body in a tackle. It can not work out very well for him sometimes. But I think he's been lifted by the old team. FC. It was a team performance that the players that they've got out injured to lift themselves, led by John Asiata, obviously, who was again phenomenal in this game, and the crowd as well. I've seen lots of posts from FC fans saying they've not heard it that loud at the MKM for a long time. And rightly so, and this is part of the job of the fans. You've got to lift your team when they need it. And I thought the fans did a fantastic job of that. And they kind of smelt a little blood, didn't they? I think the FC fans at the weekend. And it definitely got them over the line.
Well, I was very critical the week before when we saw Davy Litton having a mare at fullback and he didn't shift Hardacre to fullback and Litton into centres. He did against Leeds, and it paid dividends. Hardacre looked a lot more assured at fullback, and Davy Litton, of course, took his stride very well and produced a performance that he's used to providing on in that centre position. So for me, I think we'll talk a bit more maybe about Asiata in a minute, but I think that as well was vitally important to the way in which FC got that win on Sunday.
Yeah, team selection's massive, and I was dismayed against Wakefield for Leigh that he played Jack Hughes in the centre when we had Will Brough, as 18th man. It just at some point you've got to give players the chance, but to go back to the FC bit, Litton's a great centre, and Hardacre's proved what a good player he is, no matter where he is in that back line. But he's spent a lot of his career at fullback, so they did look more settled. And let's not forget, there was no Aidan Caesar against Leeds either. So
No.
to have the organisation, and again, I think this comes a lot down to Asiata. To still have that organisation in your back line, both in attack and defence, without your main halfback, it's a phenomenal effort. I thought Cus did a really good job filling in there.
Apart from his, won't he? Because he's been banned, hasn't he, for this one?
Yeah, but I was going to say his discipline wasn't the best and hasn't been the best for he has got that in him, hasn't he? But I thought he did. Apart from those incidents, he had a good game, but that could be a factor in this one that he's not going to be playing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who he puts alongside Jake Arthur. And on the topic of Arthur, I think this is a real key battle. I think the battle of the imports is massive. I think Arthur, I mean, this was their stats in those two games. So this isn't season stats. This is from the weekend. Of course, Jake Arthur getting a try in that game against Leeds, an assist for Toby Sexton, who I think is really growing at Catalan. 2 tackle busts to 3 in Sexton's favour, 4 attacking kicks to 3 in Arthur's favour. The kicks in general play virtually even, 14 and 15 for Sexton. The carries more from Sexton, 18 to 11, and slightly more, sorry, that should say meters, 81 to 62 meters. I think that these two players for me, in and around the middle of the park, I think they are going to be pivotal to who comes out on top.
Yeah, Jake Arthur, been a slow starter for FC, obviously with his injury to start with, and then he's still feeling his way. But I think we got a glimpse into what Jake can deliver. He had a really good performance against Leeds, backed up brilliantly to get that try early on in that game. But was assured, and his kicks were good. Sexton, I think, is probably 4 weeks ahead of him for me. Yeah. I think he's playing really well for Catalan, and he's got a bit of a partnership growing now with Staines at fullback linking in. But yeah, I think out of the two, I'd be more comfortable with Sexton at the moment. But this is another opportunity for Jake to show what he's got.
Well, Romain Neverett, he's also down in this game to get to a milestone. His 100th appearance for the Dragons, and I'd expect he probably will play. So that'll be interesting. Look, this is a real tight one to call for me. Really tight one to call. In fact, I can't remember which way I went. Just had a quick look now. Which way you're going? This is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, two teams coming off brilliant wins, so confidence won't be an issue for either side. I just think the MKM's been a bit of a poison chalice for FC, hasn't it, in recent times? Went on a massive streak of losing home games. But I think they may have turned a corner with that, and particularly from a fan base perspective. And I think the fans from last week will be particularly buoyed by that performance, and I think they could be the deciding factor, alongside Catalan having to travel to this one and all the way up to Hull as well with the coach trip on top of the flights. Yeah. And I think that's just going to play a bit of a factor with it. Cust missing for FC has got me a little nervous, so I'm not confident with my prediction, but I'm going to go FC by 8.
Yeah, it's. I've got exactly the same. I've got FC by 8. I think the Asiata factor. I think it's hard not to. I mean, I get what you mean about Cust, but Asiata's the linchpin. It'd be interesting to see who he puts in alongside Arthur. But I think had Asiata been out, I think I'd be going the other way. But I think as long as John Asiata's in the middle, Hardacre at full back, we know they've got a really good 3-quarter line. Have all FC. For me personally, I think God, if they can replicate that forward performance as well against Leeds, they'll do well. So that's why I'm going FC. I'm going to show the black and whites a bit of love this week and go FC. Well, let's just quickly dip into the Super League Raw Fantasy League. And of course, you can become a part of this, ladies and gentlemen. By all means do. All the details that you need are on the screen there at the bottom in terms of how you get involved in this. Catherine Deering still top, and a bit of a lead there on Daniel Moxon in second. Tony Pennington's third. Stuart Scaife, who was in the top 3 last year, he's still there again this year. And Graham Smith, not the Castleford one, the Leeds one. He's there in 5th place.
place. If you want to join the Fantasy League on the official Super League Fantasy League, then look up Super League Raw 26. The pin is 12378. And if you're a member, the prizes are, if you win it, you'll get a Club Wembley ticket for 2027's Challenge Cup final. If you come second, you'll get a replica shirt for your team. And if you come third, you'll receive either a bobble, beanie or baseball hat from Super League Raw. You have to be a member to be qualified for those prizes. But if you're playing along for fun, then happy days, no dramas whatsoever. But well done to Catherine. She's doing very well. She's been there and thereabouts throughout the season thus far. Right, really looking forward to this one myself. I've been invited down by Mr. Sailor, and of course, I can never, ever turn down his hospitality. Leigh Leopards taking on Toulouse Olympique at the LSV. The Greatest Show returns yet again. Both of these two teams have had an indifferent start to the season. Leigh through injury, and like I say, I think, don't get me wrong, I think Toulouse have done very, very well. Very, very well indeed. Probably better than many people have expected thus far. But that said, they were very disappointing against St. Helens, especially in the first half. And I think that that's an opportunity, perhaps, for Leigh. Leigh needs to come. Leigh at times can come out really, really quick, really sharp on the front foot. And what Toulouse showed last week was they were very cold in that first half against Saints.
They were, and really surprising as well. I think it's the first time this season with Toulouse that I've gone, oh, that looked like championship defence in that first half.
Agreed.
But fair play to them. They came, back in and showed the right attitude in the second, even though the game had probably gone by then. They will still be confident of coming over here. They put in some fantastic performances so far, and they'll be very aware that Leigh are still missing 7 starting players in this game. Interestingly, Joe Affingawi has been named in the squad this week, but Lamb said in his interview he was still 2 weeks away. So whether that's just a case of getting a name on the 21-man sheet this year, say again.
He does that quite a bit, though, doesn't he?
He does do it quite a lot, yeah. Just to second guess, I think the other team's coaches, but I would be very, very surprised if we saw a Joffa this week. But the good news from a Leigh perspective is 2 weeks we should be getting the majority of our injured players back, so that's going to be a massive boost. But back on topic, they need to be really stepping up, and I think they did against Wakefield. And I think if Leigh play like they did against Wakefield, they'll have enough at home to go toe to toe with Toulouse. But another game I think could be very, very close.
Not that it matters, 2019, but can you remember the last time that you played Toulouse and what the score was?
We'd have won. We'd have beat them, I think.
You did that season at home. You beat them 24-16 at home. But the last time you played them was actually in round 15 of the championship in the same season. Toulouse 44, Leigh 16.
Yeah.
Not that matters. It's just a bit of trivia, mate. It doesn't matter at all. It's completely different teams, but a bit of fun nonetheless. Anyway, here they are. Here's the squads, and still, of course, some absentees there for the Leigh Leopards. Still no David Armstrong, of course, no Brand as well. Tessie News there, still without your Myla Hanley. That's a problem. Josh Charlie, Adam Court, Lachlan Lamb. As Steph said, Joe Affingawi is in the 21, not expected to play. Still no Ipape. Mulhern, Holton, Trout, Liu, Penne back. That's interesting. He needs a big game. Jacob Alec Wiki. Is it Wiki? Just call him Alec?
Alec Wiki.
Yeah, we'll call him. Matt Davis is 16. Liam Horn, 17. In his seniors there, Gareth O'Brien, of course, no HIA for Gareth. He's in the squad. He'll be at fullback. Jack Hughes, Ben McNamara, Lewis Brogan, Ryan Brown, will he feature? And Will Bruff, of course, you've already mentioned there. In terms of the absentees for Toulouse, still no Paul Ulberg, the winger. Paul Macron still out the centre, and no Joe Breverton either. But actually, they're in pretty fine feckle when you look at their squad numbers. They do seem to be okay. And like I say, they've had a reasonable start to the season this year. But I think started like a house on fire, not been as impressive the last few rounds. Ruben Rennie's had moments this season. I think Brendan Hands needs to improve at hooker. I think he's been a bit in and out for my liking. I really like Jossamy as well. I think he's had a reasonable start. And actually, Tyler Dupree seems to be warming up. So it's one that, for me as a Leigh Leopards fan, you should, with that squad on the left, you should be saying, yeah, we should go and win this. But that said, Toulouse have not died wondering this season, and there's enough in that team that if Leigh, for whatever reason, aren't at the races, we could get an upset.
Yeah, I mean, the other one, Cesar Rouge, I think, has gone really well for them as well. But yeah, I think any team, if they're not on the metal, Toulouse will take advantage. They've already shown that this year, so I don't think that's a Leigh per se problem. I think that's a more a credit to Toulouse and Bradford and York, the way they've started their seasons, that no one can be taken for granted at the moment in Super League. But it's I agree with you with Aaron Penne. I believe he's going to play in this game. He was 18th man and warmed up last week against Wakefield. He needs a massive game just to repay the club more than anything for sticking by him. I know he's had back surgery similar to what I had, so I know what, and I've got a bit of sympathy for him actually in terms of knowing what that kind of recovery is like. I don't think, like I said, that we're going to see Joffa Ngawe in this one. We may not even see Owen Trout, who I believe has got an ankle injury. So that would be another massive loss on the back of news today that he's officially been signed by Cronulla for next year. That's officially come out now. But we may see Ryan Brown. I think Lewis Brogan as well, who is not known to many people. He's come back from an ACL injury similar to David Armstrong. I think he's been brilliant the past couple of games that he's come in and really earning his spot in that Leigh side. Me personally, I would like to see Will Brough given a go in the centres for this one. I hope he doesn't go with Jack Hughes again. I think that was one of the main reasons Leigh lost that game against Wakefield last week. We don't want prop forwards playing in the centres, especially not when we've got young lads who probably deserve the chance. You know, Will Brough had a fantastic game at Warrington in the friendly, if you remember, Dave, before he got an injury and was unable to play again. So I personally would like to see Will Brough come into this one in the centre, but we'll see what Mr. Lamb decides to do.
Well, you know me, I love to see the young lads given a chance, and maybe the fact if there is no Owen Trout and nothing Gary doesn't make it, I think Jack Hughes is probably going to be needed in the middle unit more, so that might open that door for Will, and hopefully it does, because like you say, you look around Super League this season, you know, the young lads who've been given opportunities, they've took them with both hands. They've been absolutely superb. I mean, you know, Noah Hodgkinson, another one last week for Wigan, incredible. You know, so I think, you know, if they're there, I think there comes a point, especially as well, it's a home game, so it's a good game to throw him in. You know, it's on home soil. I'm with you. I'd love to see young Will trot out on Saturday. I'll tell you now, very, very interesting, the next graphic. Let's put these two teams head to head. Of course, who'd have thought that Leigh Leopards would have been behind Toulouse Olympics on the league ladder at this stage of the season? But they are. But when you actually look at this, it's really, you know, statistically speaking, going to be a really tight game. Tries scored, 14 for Leigh, 15 for Toulouse. They're 8th and 9th in the rankings where that's concerned. Tackle busts, 163, 8 for Leigh. 4th highest tackle bust in Super League, Toulouse 177. Great effort that. Clean breaks, 16 for the Leopards. I bet many of them have come via Tessie New. 12th in the league. That is really surprising, and that's the bite, perhaps, of the likes of No Yamala Hanley, etc. It's really impacting Leigh's ability to have clean breaks. You'd expect them to be certainly higher than 12th ranked in the league at this stage of the season. Compare that to Toulouse, who are 3rd highest with 29, which is incredible. Both of them offloading in the lower end of the charts. 29 for Leigh, ranked 12, 36 for Toulouse, ranked 10th. Missed tackle, Steph. I'm going to come back to that because that's where I'm going to bring you in. Penalties as well, equally. We'll just jump to yellow cards. 2 for Leigh, none for Toulouse. Penalties. The highest penalty count in Super League, Leigh Leopards, 41. The second lowest in Super League, Toulouse with 25. And missed tackles, second highest in Super League, Leigh Leopards, 199. 9th placed in missed tackles at Toulouse with 168. Those last 3 statistics, Steph, that's the concern for you, isn't it?
It is. But you've also got to... Stats are great. And they do paint a picture. 100% they do. But I think there's two factors that you've got to throw into it, and that's the teams that Leigh have played is number one. I would put in there. When you've got Wigan away, St Helens away, Leeds at home, Wakefield away, and Catalan at home. That's 5, really, especially given the way those teams are playing at the moment as well. So you've got to factor in that's probably 4 of the top 5 sides in Super League at the moment. So that is a big one. Then you throw into that the injuries, and the reason why I'm putting it in, it's not an excuse, but when you look at missed tackles and penalties, normally that's down to organisation in your defensive line. So when you take out those players that would normally there, you've got players playing out of position. Jack Hughes, prop, playing at centre. That's where your yellow cards come in, your missed tackles come in, your penalties come in. So it's not an excuse, but a reason, I think I'd say, for why Leigh are looking like that at the moment. But on the flip side of that, you would say the only game Leigh have been blown out again is against Wigan. Given all the things I've just talked about there, every other game has only been that they've lost has been by less than 1 score. So in the Wakefield one, it was 3 tries apiece. It was goal kicking that cost Leigh that game. But park Leigh to the side. That just shows for Toulouse perspective. Some of those stats, are fantastic for them, aren't they? And it goes to show and really highlight how well they've done this season so far and how competitive they've been in the league.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. Joe Cater's going to make his 150th appearance in his career at the LSV.
Coming back to Leigh as well, former Leigh player.
What a place to do it, the bright lights of Leigh. Fair play to him. So he'll be on the field of play, we would expect, on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, I just think that's a really interesting graphic. And you're right, it paints a picture for Leigh, but it also paints a positive picture for Toulouse in terms of how certain areas of their game are really impressive this season. Really, really impressive. Right, we come to the prediction. Where you going and by how many?
I think I'm up for this. I think another close. I've had a habit recently of predicting some big blowout scores. I don't think that's going to be the case this weekend again. I think there's going to be a couple of points. I'm going to go Leigh by 6.
I've got a bit more. I've gone by 10. Well, a bit more by 10. I think home field advantage. That said, I'm very worried about that middle unit. Now you're saying Trout's out as well. That's a bit of a concern, but it's home. We know it's going to be a partisan crowd. We know Toulouse won't travel in numbers, so the atmosphere will be a cauldron. There's no question about that. I just think perhaps the Be the Roarers will just be the difference on the day and sing their boys home. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Right, let's now move across to this one. It does say never underneath that Wigan Warriors badge, I do assure you. But yeah, the Warriors very seldom show any mercy. And if you were the Huddersfield Giants, we're not going to go over old ground. If you want to know what our opinions have been on the Luke Robinson sacking, just go and watch Weekly, and we cover that on there. But if you could have picked a worse game, well, you couldn't have really. Wigan away for Huddersfield with all of what has gone on. Before we get to 2026, let's go back in time to Super League 3. Super League 3 was the first time that the Huddersfield Giants played the Wigan Warriors, and how Huddersfield will be hoping it's not a repeat. 46-0 it was at Central Park. 8,966 fans in attendance. And when you look at the players that have picked out that played that day, Chris Radlinski, arguably, Steph, one of the greatest fullbacks in Super League history.
Yeah, 100%. Fantastic player.
Jason Robinson, arguably one of the greatest wingers in Super League history.
100%. Definitely.
Andy Powell, one of the greatest number 13s in Super League history.
Definitely.
And then Dennis Betts, probably arguably one of the most consistent and one of the big reasons why Wigan had so much success in the 80s and 90s, Dennis Betts.
Well, Dennis was fantastic for them, but the other three especially would potentially be on a lot of people's all-time 13s, wouldn't they? They were that good a player.
Very much so. And then you go over to Huddersfield Giants, Phil Reavers. There you go. Remember Basil Richards? I couldn't resist it. I couldn't resist putting him on the slide. Basil Richards. Why? There was a play, very, very Justin Sangare. If you've never seen Basil Richards, if you think of Justin Sangare, it's not a million miles off.
Yeah.
He's that kind of player. Danny Arnold, good friend of mine, Danny, Warrington lad, of course, played for Saints. People will probably remember him more for playing for Saints. He actually scored 2 tries in the 1996 Challenge Cup final, Danny, and he went back to Wembley with Saints to beat Bradford for the second year running to lift the trophy again in 1997. He was a decent player, was Danny Arnold, and of course Paul Loughlin doesn't need any plaudits. I mean, another phenomenal player in Super League history was Paul Loughlin.
Yeah, was he Saints as well?
Saints as well, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was. Yeah, great player. But yeah, no, I'm loving the looking back at some of these names. You forget about a lot of them, don't you? But great players.
And of course, it was the end of that season when Mr. Robinson scored that wonder try in the first ever grand final.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Right. Wonderful memories. Not for the Huddersfield Giants. They'll be hoping for better this coming weekend. But anyway, let's look on the positives if you're a Huddersfield Giants fan. We'll get to the actual squad in a minute, but returning Giants, Niall Evalds is in the 21-man squad going into this game. Let's be fair, Niall is a quality one, and that is a real bonus, because it'll probably allow them to put Tanguy Zelen back into probably centre maybe for this game. So again, from a structural perspective, that's really going to help the back line. That said, Conor Wrench, who of course has been brought in from Warrington, he's also in the 21-man squad, can play wing or centre. So it'll be interesting to see if Conor Wrench gets his debut for the Huddersfield Giants. And of course, Adam Clune is also back for the Giants as I put up the full list and the full squad. Now, before we actually go through, for the purpose of the podcast, before we go through those squads, Adam Clune. Now, there's a lot of people who have the views on Clune. There's no doubt about it. He's been plagued by injury, as most players have at Huddersfield the last couple of seasons. But what is undeniable is that last season, Adam Clune, for the short amount of games that he played, had a 50% win ratio at Huddersfield Giants. Huddersfield Giants win ratio in 2025 was 26%. Yeah. And anybody with a pair of eyes could see that when Clune played, Huddersfield looked better.
Yeah, he brought structure, as all good halfbacks should do, and then that has a ripple effect through all of your game plan. Your kicking game, your defensive effort. So it's we all know halfback is a crucial part of any side, and Clune is a good player. So I think it may help Lola here as well. That's the big one, because it takes that pressure off him to be a bit more creative and that kind of thing also. So there's 3 really big ones, and obviously Wrench coming out of retirement, isn't it? I know he said from Warrington, but he retired. So if he comes into this one, that's a big one to drop someone in after being in retirement. But a really good player. I really like Wrench. It was obviously a shock when he did retire through injury, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't injury. It wasn't injury that he retired. So I think the positive thing for Conor is he's clearly got himself back on an even keel in terms of his personal circumstances as to why he retired, and he clearly wants to give it another crack. So good on him for that.
Yeah. It's like I say, a bit of a baptism of fire going against the Warriors if he does get put in, but also a great opportunity for these players as well to really show what the Giants have been missing.
100%. I mean, they've got a hell of a task on. I mean, we'll go through the Wigan squad. We'd expect Hodgkinson at full back, Zach Eckersley, Adam Kieran in the squad, Liam Marshall. Marshall, of course, back to try scoring ways. He'll be pleased. It'll be a Farriman and Smith halfback combination. I think we'd expect that. Even Havard's in the squad. As to his Brad O'Neill, who's going to have to do some big minutes now. Tom Forber's gone off to Castleford. Luke Thompson, Junior Nsemba, Liam Farrell. I'm going to have a little plug here. I think he might put Dayan Sambu in at centre. I really do. He scored a hat-trick last week on loan at Halifax. It could be this game, because it's Huddersfield, it could be a game where he thinks, you know what, let's put the young lad in the cherry and white. So that wouldn't surprise me with Powell maybe going back into second row, albeit he has favoured Walters there this year, but I'm looking, and yeah, there he is. Sammy Walters at 14, Cade Ellis 13, Mago Partington, Sam Essers there as well, Keir McDermott, Taylor Kerr, Lucas Mason, of course, Keith's son. He's in the 21-man squad. Johnny Vaughan, of course, Dayan. So if you were Matt P, Dayan, Halifax, hat-trick last week, of course, was brought across from St. Helens. Surely this is a game where if you're going to give him a start in Super League 2027, this is the one.
Yeah, a bit like I was saying for Leigh in terms of Will Brough. It's exactly the same thing, isn't it? At some point, you've got to give these lads their opportunities. I remember Tom Briscoe going down at Leigh and Keenan Brand getting his chance and then keeping that spot, and Briscoe then obviously going off to Hull FC. So, but one thing Wigan are really good at is giving the opportunities to, they don't panic, they don't go out getting loans when they've got injuries or whatever. They promote their younger players and give them their opportunities. I mean, if you look at that, you go down from Sam Essay, they're all youth players, young players, aren't they? So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 6 there. So 2 of those players are going to get the chance. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
We know Hodgkinson's one of them.
Hodgkinson. So yeah, so it's him plus one other. Yeah. Maybe Johnny Vaughan is the other one. But yeah, I'm with you, Dave. I'd give Sam Lewis. This is what I'm saying about don't play players out of position when you've got an actual player who plays in that position who needs his opportunity to shine.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, mate. And then if Evels is fit, he plays. He has to play Evels one. I've got a sneaky suspicion in this one that what they might do, and I could be wrong when I say this, is they might actually put Conor Wrench on the wing. They might put Conor Wrench on the wing. They might also leave Gagai on the wing. Allow Zenon to go into centre. For me, I'd be more comfortable game one back, just putting Conor on the wing so he's not having to do as much work defensively. He'd be out there on the wing, and I think that probably would be the right thing to do. Conor's played wing before, and he's got incredible pace. So that's where I put him. I don't think Conor Carr's done himself too much justice when he's been given the opportunity. I know that Jacob Douglas is there as well from Wigan. But for me, if Conor Wrench is playing, I will put him out on the wing. Will it be 6 and 7? If it is, it picks itself. And in the middle units, they've got some big units there. And I thought that when George King and Tom Burgess were side by side last week, they did look very good going forward. But the problem is, Tom can only do 40 minutes a game, and my concern here is that I think if Huddersfield keep this lower than a 20-point difference, they have done very well.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think I don't agree, and I think Jacob Douglas will play in this one. I think Wigan, I can't see why Wigan would loan him to him this week if they weren't going to play him. It's 1 week loans now, isn't it? It's week by week. So
I think this was a month. I think I might have saw this as well as being a month. I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, but either way, they wouldn't have sent him this week if he wasn't going to play, I don't think. So I think he'll start on the wing for Huddersfield in this one. But yeah, my concern, like you, is the forwards. I think you look at that pack for Wigan and also what they're bringing off the bench. It's a phenomenal pack, isn't it? So Brad O'Neill, the forward one's really thrown me because we talked about Wigan's hooking. Obviously we're losing. What's his name? Top of my head.
Tom Forber.
No, not Forber. I think he went to Catalans. Cruz Lehman. So yeah, we questioned when they lost Cruz Lehman, he was going to step up, and we all said Tom Forber was going to fill that role. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no hooker there apart from Brad O'Neill, is there? Wigan?
Well, certainly not. Well, certainly not in terms of where their traditional positions are. But that said, it may be that he's got he's seen something in some of those younger lads that can attribute itself to a 9 role. One thing's for certain, it's a big ask of Brad O'Neill, and I do think we've said this pretty much all season. Wigan starting 17 is as good as anything. And if they can keep it fit, then they're thereabouts. But they've not, they're not a million injuries away from real problems. And I think that it really surprised me to see Tom Forber go to Castleford this week. More so from the point of view is it's not just about Tom getting minutes, which you can understand. You can understand that because he's definitely going to play for Castleford, 100%, has to.
Yeah.
But then you miss the injury to him. You've got both. So it's a real odd one. But look, like I said a minute ago, I'm just going to call this one. I'm going Wigan by 38. That's where I'm going. What are you doing?
I'm going Wigan by 42.
You're going a bit more. If they can keep him below 20, they've done very, very well indeed. Yeah. Right, let's move across to this one. I think this has got all the ingredients to be a real little beauty. This could be the game of the round. Could be York against Wakefield. Applegarth against Powell. I know they've gone head-to-head in the Championship, but, there's that narrative there as well. This one should be a beauty. And I caught up with Daryl Powell a little bit earlier. I spoke to you last week about how well Harvey had deputised for Tyson, but I thought Tyson was exceptional on his return, especially defensively.
Yeah, he's obviously had a couple of weeks out with that head knock against Warrington, and came back was pretty strong. And used Jazz in there a little bit as well, just to give Tyson a breather. But Harvey will be in amongst it this week, so he had a bit of a breather last week.
Obviously, you mentioned Paul Vaughan earlier. You know Paul well. Is this the best you've seen Paul play since perhaps his first season at Warrington? He seems to have got the bit between his teeth since coming to York.
Yeah, he's playing well, isn't he? I thought he was pretty good at Warrington all the way through. I think obviously when the team has a difficult year, then it's hard for individual players as well. And his best mate went home, so probably won't have enjoyed that too much. But I think he's playing great. I mean, he's scoring tries, isn't he? So you're mindful close to the line because he scores a great try against Leeds. If he's 10 metres out, then he's a real threat. So, look, I think they're better players. Just dealing with those. I think, like I was already mentioned, Matarafa at the back. North was playing well, and Garno's a key player. And then those two in the middle of the field are probably the most important for us to look after, really, McShane and Vaughan. So, it's going to be really important that we win that battle.
One of the best attributes probably that York have had this year is that they just don't go away, do they? It's the never say die attitude. And that must be a dangerous proposition going there this weekend.
Yeah, I just think we're aware of that. We've looked at the games, obviously, and talked about Shenny was mentioning it the other day. When Wigan was scoring points, there's people in the frame, battling to get back. So that there's a real spirit about them. They're a genuine team. And like I say, I mean, we find that I thought that with Leigh last week. They scored 2 late tries on us. Teams don't go away. I think that's that's something that's pretty special about rugby league teams. I think is they don't give up. And York are certainly in that category. They haven't been far away the last couple of games in Super League. Very, very close. And you look at all the games they've played, apart from probably, but even the game at Leeds, it was close that for a long period of time in the first half, and Leeds get away from them a little bit. But there ain't anything easy against this team, so you don't go there expecting it, and we certainly aren't.
No, and then finally, obviously, Mark Applegarth's got history there at Wakefield in a week where we've lost Luke Robinson. You must be delighted for how things have turned out for Mark at York. He's doing a sterling job down there, isn't he?
Yeah, class. I think obviously had a tough time here, but everybody that speaks about Mash is positive vibes. I think. I met him just after Matt had taken over, and we had a couple of chats about different things, and he was always, really easy to talk to, great fella, understands the game, works hard, and I'm really pleased for him that he's gone there and done really well. And we had a couple of tough battles with him in the Championship, when when he first went there. So it was obvious straight away that he did a great job there, and he's just carried that on, and got some good people around him. So he's steady there, and some of the other guys who are coaching, they're rock solid. So they've done a great job, and they're in a good place for sure.
Well, it's good to see you both doing well, mate. To be fair, go well at the weekend. All the best.
Thank you.
Anything from you, Sam?
Always a pleasure to meet up with Daryl for a chat. He's got a lot of respect for Mark. He's got a lot of respect for York, Steph.
Rightly so. Mark's a standout guy and a really good coach as well. He was so unfortunate. I think maybe even a bit Luke Robinson-esque when he was at Wakefield, in terms of what he was dealt with when he came into that role. But proving just what a good coach he is to do what he's done at York in the Championship and also now in Super League.
Absolutely, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. Like I say, this has got all the ingredients of being an absolute belter. We'll get to Bet Steph a bit later, but Max Jowett scored a try in the last 3 games against York. Just saying, Steph. Just saying. Always finger on the pulsing. But anyway, let's take a look at the sides. These are the sides that are going to be going toe to toe. Don't know why that's doing that. Let's just get the big screen up. And again, you heard Daryl Powell there talking about Paul Vaughan is in great form. Matt Affa's been a breath of fresh air. Ben John Bishops has answered so many critics in terms of many said he was over the hill for Super League. Well. Tell Ben that he's not having any of that. Sam Wood, of course, he's having a stellar season as well. Scott Galano, he's in there. Hingano, and he's there. Of course, they're still without the captain, Harris. So it'll be Danny Richardson, you'd expect, will continue in the half-back role there. Good news around Paul McShane, folks. Paul McShane hasn't broken his hand. He is in the 20-man squad. Whether he plays or not, I don't know. Maybe Denis Balfour will have to do additional minutes. Who knows with regards to that. Josh Griffin, Jesse D will probably be in the second row positions. Nick Al Williams down on the pecking order in terms of the list there, but he's been playing in centre a lot. David Nofaluma, of course, he will be playing on the wing. And Sam Cook, Steph, of course, came in from the Newcastle Knights on loan last week at Wigan, and he had some game.
Yeah, it was a brilliant impact, wasn't it? Considering he was not far off the plane, he came in and slipped right into this team. Really, really good performance from him. But I mean, both these sides have been a bit blessed at the moment from a injury perspective, aren't they? If we look at that Wakefield, there's only Lisoni missing.
Lino.
Lino, sorry, not Lisoni. Lino. Yeah.
They're in good nick, mate. They're in very good nick.
Yeah, but obviously they've had Jack Sinfield, who's come in to that position and done a phenomenal job for them. So, like you say, I'm excited to watch this game. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. And back at the LNER, they've had a few away games, haven't they, on the bounce, York? So they'll be happy to get back to that ground, and I'm sure it'll be another packed one for this. And I'm sure Wakefield fans will travel in numbers, like we've seen at Huddersfield already this year.
Well, I've heard today when I was speaking to Daryl, over 1,000 have already committed to go to this in terms of tickets, and of course they'll be available right up till kickoff. So yeah, I'd expect a really good, handsome crowd from Wakefield in this. He also said that Harvey Smith will feature, so I'd expect that whether that be starting or on the bench, him and Smoothie will interchange in this one. Lolasio as well, of course, went out on loan last week. Daryl very, very impressed with his performance, and also stated that he expects him to be pushing for a jersey as well. So Daryl Powell's in a great position in terms of headaches around squad selection, and they just appear to be just getting into gear. I don't think they've been as blistering as they were last season in parts, but you can already tell that they are now starting to get into a little bit of rhythm.
Yeah, and I think getting players like Johnstone back as well is massive for them. I thought they were a little bit clunky against Leigh. If I'm being, I expected them to put a score given the difference in the squads. They were pretty much full strength against Leigh. I think the big one though is Smith. I've been so impressed with him, and he will probably give them that little bit extra go forward this week as well. So that's a huge boost for Wakefield. And I think the scary thing is when they do start to click, then they could put a lot of teams to the sword, Wakefield.
Well, again, mate, I couldn't disagree with you more. Agree with you more, should I say? Absolutely, absolutely. I just think this has got everything. And of course, the player there that's pictured for York, Josh Griffin, when he went across to York from Wakey, there was people, he was getting to the end of his career, and then of course when York come up, could he hack it still in Super League? Of course, Challenge Cup winner in 2017 with Hull FC. Good player, Josh Griffin, and I was pleased to be able to catch up with him actually this week. I'm going to play that recording now. 328 first-class appearances from Griffin, 138 tries, and this is what he had to say when I caught up with him earlier in the week. George, how are you? Sorry, George. Josh as well. I'll tell you what, I've got George in my head. I'll tell you now I've got George in my head. There can't be many seasons where George is outscoring you. 2 braces in 2 weeks for Sheffield.
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah. He's doing well, isn't he? He's having a good little run with the tries. I don't think he's scored that many tries in his whole career. So, yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah, you'll be making Christmas dinner at this rate, mate, if that carries on. But in terms of your own career, it's been a great career. I've really enjoyed watching you over the years. You went down with Wakefield and, of course, were part of the squad that brought them up. And then, of course, you had the great year that you had last year with Wakefield. Is there any parallels there that you're seeing within York in terms of your time at Wakefield and now at York?
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree. Yeah, it's obviously a club that's been promoted and is on its own journey, but no, there is definitely some comparisons there. It's a team that obviously Matt and what he's done at Wakefield and Daryl Powell is obviously they needed that. It was a club like when I first went there in 23 that was probably on its last legs, and without Matt it may not be where it is now, but you see it now and it's an amazing place to play. And I think York's got all the qualities to be the same. It's a great place to live. Like I say, the stadium, the facilities are top notch. And like I mentioned earlier, it's the very start of their journey with a long way to go, but I can see them just going from strength to strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously there'll be a lot of narrative in terms of Mark and Wakefield, etc. You've had a lot of top coaches in your career and you had the privilege to play under them. Was I right in thinking that obviously you had a short spell with Mark, didn't you, at Wakefield? Would that be right? And then obviously...
I did, yeah. I've known Mark a long time. I played with him when I first came through at Wakefield in 2008, and then again when I went on dual lodge to Batley. So I've played with him, yeah, and I've always been close to Mash. I've known him a long time. But yeah, I played under him at Wakefield when I first left FC in back end of 23, yeah.
And in terms of, Mark as a coach, what do you admire? Because you clearly have known him a long time. What do you admire about him from a coaching perspective?
One, his attention to detail is brilliant. His work ethic. He is, he won't mind me saying this, he's a bit of a geek of the game, and he lives and breathes rugby league, and you need to do that as a head coach. But he's also just a champion bloke as well. He's one of them ones you want to play for him. He's not. He demands respect, but he can be your friend as well, and that's a lot of what it takes to be a head coach at this level. I think you've got to have. He gets the balance right, and yeah, it's like I say, it's a pleasure to play for him, and like I say, I hope he's got a long and successful career.
Absolutely. Well, as far as your career goes, really enjoyed watching you, no matter what the future looks like for you. Thanks very much for all of your dedication and commitment to the great game, mate. It's been a privilege watching you.
No, thank you.
So there you go. That was Josh Griffin, Steph, earlier in the week. He's had a hell of a career as Josh, without doubt. And, lesson to me, I was that eager to get into his ribs over there, George, getting a brace 2 weeks running. I got his name wrong, but anyway, that's by the by. If you forgive me for that. But I think this is a great little contest this week between Josh Griffin and Isaiah Vegana. I think these two are in. Well, Vegana's been incredible for Wakey. Let's be crystal on that. And when you look at these two side by side, What a sort. I mean, again, you know me. I like to get narratives. I like to find something a bit obscure. It's too easy. It's too easy to go into Mataafa and the rest of it. Let's find a little narrative, and I think this is a cracking narrative. Josh Griffin, Isaiah Vigana, both have had an assist this season. Vigana's had more tackles, 14-5. Tackles 128 from Griffin, but an efficiency of 93%, 188 from Vigana, 87%. Both have carried similar, 48 for Griffin for 321 metres, 52 carries for Vigana, 405. As it says there, hold on to your hats. This is where the spice could be. This is where the biff could be. This could be very interesting.
It could, and like you, massively impressed with Vigana. He's started for Wakefield. And a lot of credit's got to go to I think it's Steve Mills, isn't it? The head of recruitment there at Wakefield. I think he's done a phenomenal job, and I'm sure he's getting on the radar of some of the perceived bigger clubs in terms of his recruitment. I'd have him right up there with what Chris Chester did at Leigh as well. So plaudits to him. But yeah, like you, I think the forward battle is going to be very, very interesting. You got then the likes of Fertilli coming off the bench for them, which is where York are going to be probably under the pump a little bit. I think maybe in this one, that bench for Wakefield, Hamlin, Ueli, Pitts, it goes on, doesn't it? Tavaga, it's just a really, really good pack for Wakefield, and York will have to be really on the game. To one, deal with it, but then also not burn themselves out in defence and have enough to come back and attack.
Spot on, and as much as I've been impressed with the likes of Xavier Var at York, etc., you do look at that middle unit of Wakefield, and it's right up there with some of the best middle units in the division. Let's be crystal on that. They've got depth, they've got real quality in there, and that for me is where I see this perhaps going the way of Trinity. I've gone Trinity by 10. And a lot of the reason for that is because I do think over an 80-minute period, because of the interchange and the depth of quality that they've got in those middle units, they will eventually get on top of York and maybe just come through by 10. But that said, it wouldn't surprise me, folks, if York won this. It really wouldn't. Genuinely. I mean, it's a tough one to call. But I've got to go with my gut. My gut is that pack and what you've just said is going to give this one to Trim. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, and we've not even mentioned Mike McMeekin in that either. Or Rodwell, so it's a really, really, really good pack from Wakefield. I just get a feeling that York being at home, they're going to be really, especially after that performance against Wigan, where I thought they were exceptional in that game, and even as daft as it sounds in a loss, they will have took a hell of a lot of confidence of going to Wigan and doing what they did there. And the big difference for me with York is they can score a try as well against these defences. I'm going for a shock. I'm going for a York win by 2.
Wow. Imagine that. Wow. I mean, again, just from a headline perspective, the narrative, if York were to let's be fair, they beat KR at home, they very nearly, they came flying back against Warrington at home. You talked about Hull FC, who had terrible fortunes at home in 2025. York at the minute at home, it's early days, but yeah, I can see why. Like I say, for me, it's going to be. I just think the debt, and again, head and heart, love York to do it. Oh, why not? It'd be a great narrative, but I just think that middle unit. But I'll tell you what, it's unmissable. That for me has got all of the ingredients of a phenomenal game of rugby league.
I think that as much as I wouldn't be surprised, obviously, if Wakefield won and won by a couple of scores. We've waxed lyrical there about Wakefield's pack, but look at the pack they faced at Wigan. That's not where Wigan have got their injuries. Wigan have got their injuries in the backs, isn't it? Your Field and French, and I thought they dealt with Wigan's pack tremendously well. So that gives me a little bit of confidence that this is going to be a close game. And if that crowd gets on, a bit like we saw with Hull FC against Leeds, if that crowd gets behind them, they might do it. And I just think for the game as well, it'd be a great result. Not for Wakefield, obviously.
No, not for Wakefield.
But yeah, could go either way, but I'm going to back York.
Yeah, mate, it's going to be fascinating. It's beautiful that we're both going either way, because it just goes to show that we do genuinely believe this could be an absolute belter of a game. Let's quickly dip into this one, which of course is the Super League Raw Prediction League, and Volstagg is back in pole position. He's leading at the moment. Again, you can get involved in this. Just go for the Super Brew and join the Super League Raw Prediction League. Volstagg at the moment, who is a member, has currently got his hand on a £250 voucher towards his St. Helens season ticket in 2020. 7 it will be. Danny Southwick, he is in second place at Trinity. That will be a replica shirt for Trinity next year. And then Steph Makey, she's dropped down. She was top last week. She's now dropped down to third place. She has got herself, at the moment, a hoodie for Super League Raw in 2027, just outside the top three. Delly Mulcrow of the Bradfords and Fraser Howard of the Rhinos. Well done to our old mucker, Mr. Scholes, who was the player of the week last week with 8.5 points. Very well done, Mr. Scholes. If you want to be a part of that, like I say, get over to Super Brew, join the Super League Raw League. And if you've not done your predictions, get them done. Get them done, ladies and gentlemen. Right, we now move to the Friday night clash that is between Hull KR and the Saints. Oh, new champions against historic champions. This one could be interesting. And let's go back down memory lane, because the first time that these two met in Super League was all the way back in 2007. That's right. It was a 42 points to 14 win for the Saints on home soil. 10,523 people packed themselves in to Knowsley Road. And on the field of play that day for the Saints were little known faces of rugby league called Paul Helens. Again, one of the greatest fullbacks to grace our game. Leon Price was at standoff. Sean Long was at scrum half, and Kieran Cunningham, the great Kieran Cunningham, was at 9. On the bench was a young James Roby and also James Graham. So some good players that day for the Saints. As for Hull KR, again, look at these names. Stanley Jean. There's a name for the purists. Stanley Jean. Danny Ward, of course, people will know him from his coaching career now. Chris Chester. Yes, Chris Chester was playing. And Benker Kane. Remember Benker Kane, fullback? Good player, Ben.
He was,
yeah. He was. He was a good player, was Benker Kane.
Stanley Jean must have only been 10 when he played in this, because I think he's only 24 now, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I don't know, mate. I don't know, but he was there. He was there, mate. He was there. There you go. 2007, 42-14 to the Saints. This, of course, is an unbelievable fixture. Who would have thought going into this game that Hull KR would have won one Super League game out of 5 attempts? It's unthinkable. And who would have thought, with all the adversity, that St. Helens would have been doing as well as they are doing? This is a real fascinating contest. Now, before we get into this, let's just have a quick side conversation, because it has been rumoured today that Willie Peters is set to be announced as the coach of PNG down the track in the NRL. We know that he's been coveted off the back of being a quadruple winner, of course, winning all the trophies in the last 12 months or so. And I said on Weekly, at what point does KR become Sam Burgess 2025 at Warrington? You know, there was a lot of rumour over Sam Burgess last year, and it seemed to, you know, it just didn't seem right at Warrington. And at the moment, you know, let's not also forget the two backroom men, Sean Kenny-Dowell and Danny Ward. They've moved on. New men have come in, and now the head coach, who, let's be fair, all of those Hull KR players love playing for, has almost got one foot out the door. Is that a side issue here for you, Steph?
I think the travels had more of an impact on KR, if I'm being honest. It potentially could have, if those rumours. I think the back room, obviously losing Sean Kenny-Dowell, I think was massive, and Danny Ward for them. It's Ian Watson's come in, and who else has gone in? I can't remember who else went in there.
It's Ian Watson.
Just Ian Watson.
You forget Ian Watson.
No, I said Ian Watson. I said I didn't know who the other one was. I just think that again, you don't want to use it as an excuse for them, but they've not had a home game yet. They've been to Vegas, they've been to the south of France, they played in the World Club Challenge, which was a massive emotional roller coaster for them. And I'm fully expecting KR to come back and come back strongly. Obviously, losing 3 games so far so early on, when I think they only lost 5 all last year, has probably more of an impact on the league leaders, especially given how well other teams have started, like Wigan and Warrington. So that could be, as daft as it sounds, out of reach for them now, unless they just got a complete unbeaten run from now until the end of the season.
I can't see him winning the Shield. It was Luke Gale was the other one, man.
Luke Gale, yes. Yeah, of course it was. So I'm not too concerned for them. I think this is a game they potentially needed to be back at home, a big game against St Helens, and with the players Saints have got out at the moment. I know they've had some great wins, but I think this could be a different test for Saints. And Willie Peters will definitely want to see a reaction from that game over in Catalan.
Oh, it's a massive test. It's a massive test for St Helens. I mean, I messaged Paul Rowley after the Toulouse game, and he classed that as being a huge win. So that tells you, if Paul Rowley's saying he felt winning away at Toulouse was huge, it tells you just how much up against it he thinks potentially they are at the moment. So any wins, is a bonus in that respect. But again, they've been there, they've done it, haven't they? This season, they've been absolutely incredible of Saints. And like I say, you look at this, Hull KR have won their last 5 home games now against the Saints. The Saints' last away win was all the way back in March 22, 42 points to 8. That's how far back you've got to go at Craven Park for a Saints win. Jack Broadbent, will he play? Will he not? Will he keep faith with him? I mean, Broadbent's coming for some shocking criticism over the last couple of days. He will get his 100th Super League appearance. I would expect him to keep faith with Jack. I think he's a great player, and I know that Willie Peters thinks a lot of him. I mean, it's a pretty decent looking squad. Of course, Arthur Morgan, I think, again, no Morg. I mean, that is, nobody's really speaking about that, but Arthur Morg is a massive loss early doors this season for Hull KR. He was exceptional last year when he came in. He really, really was. And they are missing him, there's no doubt. But with the exception of that, they are in a really, really good spot. As for Saints, they're going to need I said this time last week, that, for Toulouse, so for Saints to win in Toulouse, they needed their players to all be 9 out of 10. And lo and behold, they were all, certainly in the first half, 9 or 10 out of 10. And that was where that game was won and lost. An incredible start, and they did well. They've been buoyed by the fact that Daryl Clark is back in the squad for this game. That's the only real major change, of course, in this one. No Burns still, he's going to be out for an extended period with injury, but it really is plug and play from that game against Toulouse, Steph. Just quickly going back, Arthur Morg, that's a big reason why KR might be a bit jittery at the moment.
Yeah, it is, but we've also seen Jack Broadbent previously really step up to the mark when Morg's been out before. He's been phenomenal. I think not more so. Was it the Challenge Cup semi-final at the LNER at York? He had a superb game to win that one, and obviously take them to Wembley and enable that victory. So that's not an excuse. Morg has been brilliant since he's joined KR, and he's definitely a miss. But Broadbent has always been a more than adequate replacement for him.
I'll tell you where I think this, again, it's a bit more of an obvious one, this one, but Battle of the Sixes. Running, both of them are running sixes, as it says there on the screen. Both of them like to carry the ball. I think Tristan Sailor this season has answered a lot of critics at 6, but this is a game where, this is where he's got to show up. Tries 2 apiece this season, 4 assists to none. I mean, that's a surprising stat where Lewis is concerned. This I know it's only 5 games in, but wow. 4-0 to Tristan Sailor there. More busts as well, 21-14 from Sailor. Both have broke the line 3 times. Attacking kicks, more for Lewis than Sailor. Jackson Hastings doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. But look at the carries, 57 carries. Those I think that can't be right, surely. 57 carries, 109 for Tristan Sailor. I want to check that. Surely it can't be 369 only for Lewis. I'm going to check that. 820 for Tristan Sailor. Steph, do you agree that this battle at 6 is going to be very interesting indeed?
Yeah, and I think from Mikey's perspective, I think this is I think they're the polar opposites, aren't they, in terms of performances so far this season? Mikey seems to have dropped off from where he was. Tristan's raised his game, and one that we've questioned. I've always said Tristan Sailor isn't the six, and he's not. He's a fullback. But his performances have really gone up this year, and he is, whether that's the Broly giving him more confidence effect, who knows? But for me, I think this is a perfect game for Mikey to get back on track. As with a number of the KR players, one thing we know is it's going to be near on sellout, if not sellout, at Sir Craven Park. Bit of a homecoming for them, although results haven't been going their way. Their fans will be delighted, I think, to finally get a game at home. They're in numbers, and I'm really expecting KR to really up the game in this one, because if they don't, the last thing they need is their fans getting on the back.
And at what point does it become a problem? Because, form and confidence, mate, in any sport, regardless of how good or bad you are as a squad, is absolutely key. I think the fact they're back at Craven Park, they get a win, and all of a sudden everything's right again at KR. They can push on and they can move on. But, to be back home, if they don't beat a Saints team with so many injuries, like you say, suddenly narratives and headlines start to kick in, and pressure starts to mount on a championship team.
Absolutely. I think this is massive for KR. If they lose this, then I think we could get some fans questioning what's going on, because this isn't a full strength Wigan Warriors team or a full strength Warrington even this season. This is a beat up Saints side with players playing out of position. When you're at home in front of 10,500, 11,000 and a quadruple winning side, it has to be a win. It has to be, and it's the daft side of that now, though, is that it lumps all the pressure. There's no pressure on St Helens in this game, none at all. Saints go there and lose by 16. People would probably go, well, fair enough.
Do you know what? That's exactly what I've gone. KR by 16. How odd is that? I have actually gone KR by 16. That's my prediction. What's yours?
Well, I've not. And for that pressure reason, I think this is going to be a bit closer than what a lot of people expect. I basically wrote Saints off last week and predicted to lose because of injuries. I couldn't have been more wrong. Shows what a good pundit I am. We'll refer back to BetSteph on that comment, but I was mightily impressed with how St Helens handled themselves, and given the travel and all the other factors that come in with going down to the South France with 2 weeks on the trot as well. Don't forget with St Helens, and also won in Catalan, didn't they, as well? So the Saints are playing really well given the adversity they're facing, and I expect them to go there full of confidence. And because of that underdog tag, pressure's off for them, and that will help them massively. I am going to go KR win, but only by 6.
There you go. There you go. Right, let's now get to tonight's game. Here it comes. The Castleford Tigers taking on the Bradford Bulls. Small pitch, big rivalry. The two smallest pitches in Super League. So Bradford, if anything, Bradford are the best placed to go and play at Castleford because they play on equally a smaller pitch. I think they might actually edge it. I'm not quite sure, but I know they're the two smallest in Super League by some distance. Let's go back down memory lane. Here we go. 30 years ago. Yes, the only other fixture that started the Betfred Super League back in the day was Bradford against Castleford. It was a 30 points to 18 win at Odsal for the Bulls, and over 10,000 was in attendance, 10,027. And look at the names I've got for you in this one. Incredible. Jimmy Lowe's. Oh, yes. If you like a little bit of grub at 9, there was none better than Jimmy. Sonny Nickel. What a name. Remember Sonny Nicol? What a player he was. Robbie Hunter-Paul, of course, and Brian McDermott was still playing at that time. As far as Castleford is concerned, one of my guilty pleasures, Graham Stedman, a great pro, brilliant fullback, of course, now plying his trade as assistant coach to Mark Applegarth at York. Frano Botica, arguably one of the greatest goal kickers ever to grace these shores. He was a his statistics they were just ridiculous in terms of his goal kicking accuracy. Tony Smith was still playing, and Leigh Crooks, the Castleford legend, he was there as well. Steph, that's memory lane, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah, there's some right blasts from their past with that. Isn't Graham Stedman at York?
Newcastle, yeah. So he's doing a job. He's doing a dual job. So yeah, he is a great. Yeah. Oh, what a player Stedman was.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And do you know what I didn't realise? I never knew that Frano Botica went to Castleford from Wigan.
There you go. He played in that game, mate. He played in that game. There you go.
Surprised me.
Well, there you go. Hey, you see?
And is that Tony Smith,
Tony
the coach?
The coach be 30 years now. Yeah, it probably is, actually. That's probably the back end of his career, isn't it? As a player. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, goes far, because that's 96. So, yeah, it wouldn't have been long after that he'd have gone to, was Leeds his first gig as coach? I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I mean, interesting as well. Sonny Nicol and Robbie Hunter-Paul both went to Leigh in the Championship as well. Right. So both ex-Leigh players there from my own personal side of things. But yeah,
no, just looking now, Tony. Let's have a quick look at Tony. No, actually, do you know what? That is unbelievable. Do you know he played as a player until 2003? That's unbelievable. Yeah, wow. Yeah, wow. He played that season and another one at Castleford. That's wow. There you go. There you jolly well go. But there you go. Fantastic stuff. Right, let's get into tonight's game. And I'll tell you what, this is a fascinating match. It really, really is. Both of these two sides, of course, bringing in some imports for this game. I don't know why that's happened. We'll do that instead. In terms of Bradford, we, of course, give Phoenix Stanwade his introduction as part of Weekly. He's straight into the squad. Jack Ormonroyd, of course, he was brought in last week at Bradford. He'll be playing again. Jen Nicarima once more. Rowan Milne's back in the squad. That's a big bonus for him. As good as Luke Cooley is deputised, that's a massive bonus for them if Rowan and Jaden can continue to play together. Well, the first time they played together in the halves. Of course, Joe Mellor there as well is having an exceptional season. And yes, Wonga Blake is also in contention. So great news for Bradford Bulls. As for the Castleford Tigers, like I say, oh dear me, a shocker last week. They're down on troops. There's no question about that whatsoever. Mapalangi, he's back in their squad, and of course we'd expect Forber, he'll be put in there as well as a new recruit for this one. It's not all bad for Castleford. I thought this man at Warrington was brilliant. It was a brilliant debut for Semi Velamay. A try, 10 tackles, 83% efficiency, made one error, made a bust, 12 carries, 96 metres, and averaged 8 metres. When you actually watch that game, when you consider some of the other players and their statistics, one error, 83% tackle efficiency, how Ryan Carr would have wished, Steph, that more players would have followed suit.
Yeah, definitely. He was definitely the shining light in what was a horrific performance for Castleford, and one they'll want to forget about very, very quickly. And probably good for them that the Thursday game this week, they get an opportunity early on to put it right with tonight's game. So one thing's for sure, though, Bradford will definitely have to be watching this man very, very closely. Because I thought he was really, really good, and to do that in a side that's well beaten as well. He never gave up. He kept going, and like I said, one real point of light for them in that performance.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Castleford's squad, Velamay there, City's probably still going to have to deputise at full back, which is a real blow for him. Velamay probably will stay in the centre alongside McIntosh. Ravalawa, of course, still there. Ashton Goulden is back in the squad. Whether he plays or not, I'm not 100% sure either. But I say that Mapalangi will probably actually come back into centre and Velamay on the wing, which will give it better balance, no doubt about that. I thought Tom Weaver had a real torrid day at the office on trying to cope with Calepitang. You know, that I'm sure would have been noted by Kurt Haggerty and co. in terms of, you know, Tanya had a lot of joy running at Weaver. Weaver's defence is going to have to be a bit sterner, I think, going into this game. But really, it's a very obvious looking side in terms of this. Now, look, for me, and I've had a quick glance at your bet, Steph. You're not going to like this, Steph. There's a part of me that thinks, only a little part of me that thinks, Ravalawa might not play this game. He might go with Gary and Malame.
Right.
With Mapalangi back in the centre alongside McIntosh. I mean, having seen him up close last week, I'll be honest with you, I don't see how he retains his position. That's my personal opinion.
Do you think they'll put him in centre?
I don't think he's got the engine.
No. Well, I'll tell you what will be interesting though, Dave. That's only a 19-man squad from Castleford.
Yeah, but they have Forber, so that's 20.
All right, okay.
So that's 20.
Right.
They've had Forber put in there as well, haven't they?
It's normally 21, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So there's a, you know, it's going to be pretty much what. So there's only going to be a couple of players drop out. So
yeah, maybe. But I mean, Gary, you can't drop him. Malamay's better on the wing. If Mapalangi's back, he's got to go in there. He's going to stick with McIntosh. So for me, that back row.
I think they'll keep Valamay in centre.
But then you're not playing Mapalangi.
Well, yeah.
Mapalangi plays. He's been outstanding since he's played at Castleford. So like I say, there's a real interest. It's going to be very interesting to see. It wouldn't surprise me. If or he might be benched. I don't know. He might put Mapalangi on the bench and bring him in and play back. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. What's that?
See, play the prop.
You could, mate. Do you know what? He put size up there. At the very least, he put some size up there. He'd probably be good for 15 minutes as an impact, and he's big enough. So it's not the worst idea in the world. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But let's just dip back into team numbers for a moment. And this again is not good reading if you're the Castleford Tigers. Tries scored. Well done to Bradford, 5th highest in Super League, 19 plays, 13th in the league with 13 Castleford Tigers. In terms of tackle bust, 6th to 175 the Bulls, 9th 157 Castleford. In terms of clean breaks, the Bulls again, 6th 24, 7th the Tigers 23. That's not too bad. Offloads, 4th highest in Super League, Bradford 48, the lowest in Super League, Castleford 23. That's interesting. In terms of missed tackles, 10th lowest. Castleford. That's interesting considering how bad they were at Warrington, 148. 13th lowest are the Bradford Bulls, 133. In terms of penalties, you've got 36 for Castleford. They're 5th highest in the league. 2nd highest in the league, the Bulls. That's not good. 1 yellow for Castleford, 1 red for the Bradford Bulls. So when you actually look at that, it's fair to say Bradford probably comfortably, Steph, come into this as favourites.
Yeah, I would say so, given the recent performances. And I think Bradford, the big boost, obviously, getting Blake back, and Nicarima and Milne combination is going to be really, really good for them and going to cause probably a lot of headaches for Castleford. I think this is probably the worst game Castleford could have hoped for. And people say, well, I think people will say, you've got to be kidding. You know, the Cass needed an easier game than obviously someone like a Warrington, for example, or a Leeds. But if they were to lose this one at home, then there's going to be a lot of disgruntled Cass fans, isn't there? And I think just with that, with Blake coming back as well, I mean, obviously he might be a little bit rusty now because he's had a few weeks off, but likewise, he might be really well rested. And, he was phenomenal for them, wasn't he? So, but a game where Cass are probably expected to compete, if this is another blowout score from a team like a newly promoted side like Bradford.
You would expect a reaction, but how good a reaction, and is it going to be good enough? I mean, I think that's the bit. I think we would expect Castleford to be better on home soil. It's a smaller pitch, that'll help it. It could be tight. But you're right. If Blake is back, if Milnes is back, if they're getting those troops back, all of a sudden you're going, yeah. I mean, I've gone Bulls by 14. I'm going Bulls. I'm going 14. The more you were speaking,
do you think the Cas fans would be happy with that?
Never in a million years. But my prediction is Bulls by 14. If you're Castleford fans, you're probably very filthy with me. But I'll be honest, I can't see how that Castleford team that I saw last week live in the stadium, I don't see how that team can possibly improve to the point where it beats Bradford this week. I just can't see that. But equally, I thought Toulouse would beat Saints last week. So what do I know? But the bottom line is, I just don't see it.
No. Well,
what are you
I'm just playing devil's advocate because I think it's going to be more. I think it's going to be Bradford by 24.
And on that, let's go to Mr. Predictor himself. Here we go.
Winning your bets every week? Want to contribute to the bookies' Christmas party? The bets to ignore when predicting the score. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Bet Steph.
Yes, it's time for Bet Steph. They're going across the bottom. I didn't have time to do your graphic. It's a 7-fold accumulator. Over to you, Mr. Sailor.
Yeah, so like I just said, I've just gone for a Bradford outright win for my first one, 2-1 for a Bradford outright win. I thought that was very generous by the bookies. I've also taken St Helens, but with an 8.5 star. So, like I said, I do expect a KR win, but I think it's going to be a bit closer than what they give in there. Likewise, probably the one I'm least confident about, a York outright win, but fantastic odds, 3.4 to 1 on that one if that does come in. Wigan Warriors minus 26.5. Again, I think the bookies have been quite generous there with that one. I thought that would have going to be a bit higher. Then I've gone for Toulouse plus 16.5. I still expect or hope that Leigh can win, but I don't think we'll beat them by a comfortable score like that. So I've gone Toulouse plus 16.5. Hull FC I've taken with a minus 6.5. I think they've got enough to overcome Catalans based on their last home performance. And I've gone for a Warrington Wolves outright win, no handicap against Leeds. This one's a massive one. So if you're going to go for all that, it's probably massive for a reason. 234 to 1 if you want to lose a pound on this one, Dave.
You said it, mate. Over to the try scorers.
Try scorers, like we alluded to, Michaela Ravalois. I've gone for him to. I just think this is a game for him if he does play on the wing where he could, close to the line, be a bit too much to handle for Bradford. So I've gone him. Joe Burgess at home at Craven Park. He's going to score a try. He always does. And my final one this week is Tom Johnstone. Form easy. I think that's a pretty good bet for him. So those three combined, 9.37 to 1.
All wingers, you'd expect it to be sub 10, and that's the way it is. That is another fantastic captain's run. We have approximately, not very long off at all, the Sky production for tonight's show, Castleford against Bradford. Enjoy your Thursday night rugby league. Great to have a game on a Thursday night, isn't it? Enjoy all the games throughout the weekend. Don't forget instant reaction throughout the week. I may even pop up at Leigh this week for the one for Toulouse, who's to say that I won't get on camera for a change. Look forward to that. All the instant reactions. The boys are back with Final Hooter Monday morning, as always. The girls are back with Tackle Talk on Tuesday morning, and we are back 7 p.m. on the Tuesday this week, as I am on night, so we'll have to bring that forward by an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Steph and on behalf of myself, enjoy the 30th birthday party. Make sure you blow out your own candle. Super League is alive and well. Enjoy your rugby league. We will. All the best. See you next week.